Hi folks, this is all the fruit. I'm in Heidelberg, Germany, in the old famous fruit growing area of the Bergstraße. I'm not very far from my own farm, but this here is another plot that belongs to the city of Heidelberg. And yeah, a lot of those fruit trees which are growing here are hybridizing like crazy. We have lots of feral apples around here, a couple feral pears, a lot of feral cherries, hybrids between old varieties and wild cherries. But the most interesting feral hybrids seem to be the plums. Look at it. Now this plot there is quite a diversity. Here, a lot of feral cherry plums originating from suckers. Here, blue plums, old and new trees. I'm not sure if the new trees were planted or are suckers from the old trees. Well, behind there in the distance, quite a part of this hedge behind the dead apple tree is actually blackthorn. And yeah, pretty much all the plums grown in the west, most of the plums grown in the west, including the blue plum, are hybrids of blackthorn and cherry plum. And then, when plots get abandoned, a lot of shrubs start growing, and some of those shrubs are actually hybrids between different plums. And here is one of those, quite similar to a different strange plum, which is not uncommon in this part of Heidelberg. Well, the plum which is not so uncommon in this part of Heidelberg seems to be very similar to the Ziebarte or Spilling, which is a plum that's quite popular in the Alps, quite a hardy plum, which is actually a hybrid between blackthorn and probably blue plum. And this Spilling-like stuff that's growing here in the Handschuhsheim is usually very, very straight and thin. They are like columns. The trees look like cypress trees, basically. Quite unusual for plums. This stuff here also looks like a Spilling, but it's not like those things which grow like columnar trees, like cypress trees. Those grow more like, you would expect feral plums to grow. Well, the other, the cypress-like plum trees, I identified them as probably Spilling. Some other folks around here, they identified them as Ziebarte, which is the same as Spilling, just a different dialect word. However, nowhere in the literature there is mentioned that Spilling is supposed to grow like a cypress. And here we have something which I would also identify as a Spilling, but which does not grow like a column or a cypress. Quite interesting. By the way, there, in this area, huge blackthorn stems, over 6 meters tall, with quite big blackthorns, and there are also blackthorns which really look a lot like plums, and I think both are hybrids between some plums and blackthorns. However, one of those hybrids looks a lot like a huge blackthorn, the other one looks like a blackthorn that looks a lot like a plum. Well, this hybrid here, I would say, looks more like a plum than a blackthorn. Look at it. Quite big leaves. They look like a lot like plum leaves. The fruit, not completely ripe. I still need a little bit of force to rip them off. Okay, here I need a lot of force and it was rotten too. Okay, let's try and find those a little bit more ripe. Well, the fruit, they look a lot like huge blackthorns, but they also look like very short blue plums. If you put them next to those, I think that this is a sucker and not planted, because the size of the blue plums is not very big. If you put them next to those probably feral blue plums, well, let's pick a few. They look quite similar. So yeah, this seems to be a blackthorn plum hybrid, which is more closely related to the plum than to the blackthorn. It's also possible that those different intermediates are hybrids, F2, F3 generation hybrids, so that basically First generation hybrids would be all the plums. So basically first the cherry plums hybridized with the Blackthorn, and you get the domestic plums. And then all the new plum varieties, and also those things where it's sure that there is more of one of the parents than of the other seem to be second, third, fourth, 1000th generation hybrids between different offsprings of the first generation hybrids hybridizing with the parents. However, I've never found anything which looks like a hybrid with the cherry plum, only hybrids with blackthorns. Now let's try those things. Let's try for comparison also those blue plum suckers. Yeah, this is really close to what they call spilling in the Alps. And for some reason, plum brandy from spilling is more expensive than from other plums. Yeah, definitely can taste some blackthorn in them. It's quite sweet already. It's not completely ripe, but quite sweet. A bit sour and tart. However, yeah, at this stage, the sourness and the tartness are already bearable. Now let's try, well, those blue plums are also not ripe. More aromatic, not very aromatic, but definitely more aromatic. Almost no tartness, but still some sourness. So yeah, this one is definitely closer to Blackthorn than the other one, but definitely good enough as a fruit. Interesting. There are already so many different plum hybrids, so many unique feral plum hybrids here. Plum hybrids no gardener has ever assessed for gardening or for further breeding. I think if you would make a garden with all the feral plum hybrids here in Heidelberg, it would be quite an amazing garden. So folks, this was most probably something like the Spilling, a hybrid between Blackthorn and Plum, probably blue plum. Not sure if it's the official variety Spilling or if this is a hybridization which happened in recent decades here on the spot. But anyway, quite an interesting taste. Stay tuned for a lot more fruit videos from the beautiful city of Heidelberg. And don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe.